Welcome to Fundraising Leaders with Drew, where we embark upon a journey to discover the heart and soul of nonprofit fundraising and decode the strategies that lead to fundraising success. I'm your host, Drew Clancy, and I am grateful to be joined today by Matt Sheffield, the Vice President of Development at Mosaic, a nonprofit organization dedicated to the needs of people with disabilities. Matt operates with a clear emphasis on outcomes, relationship building, and impact. His focus is on collaborating with donors as partners, crafting tailored asks that resonate both with their values and that amplify Mosaic's mission. Let's jump right in with Matt. Matt, thank you so much for being part of Fundraising Leaders with Drew. I've really been looking forward to our conversation. Why don't we start out at the beginning? Tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, and that decision to get involved with fundraising.
Well, thank you, Drew. And it is a true honor to be with you today. Thank you for inviting me. And I'm so glad you asked this question. That is usually my go-to question when meeting someone is, where are you from originally? So I am originally from the village of Wallace, Nebraska, population 310 in the southwest corner of the state, and was blessed to grow up in what I consider an idyllic community, a farming, ranching community, where I had incredible role models, friends, teachers, coaches who were invested in my success. But I'm thankful for Monty and Ruth Sheffield and their 52 years of marriage, for moving out there and making a go to what they thought at the time was the end of the edge of the earth in Wallace. But it provided a great upbringing for me and my sisters. Regarding Mosaic, the nonprofit that I've been blessed to work for since 2002, I'm a third generation employee. And my grandfather started with our legacy organization, Bethpage Mission, in 1951 and worked there his entire professional career. So I was very familiar with it, was a donor myself. And it was a development officer calling on me in downtown Denver in 1998, challenging me to say, you need to be more involved with, at the time, Bethpage. I thought, what do you want me to do? I send a couple of checks. I visit when I'm back in Nebraska. He said, well, we've got programs right here in Denver and Colorado Springs. Fort Collins does a golf tournament. Pete Bynum, you have my attention. I want to be more involved with Bethpage. And so through that, I got to be treated like a donor. I met the staff. I met the people we support, Ron, Jimmy, Sam, Elmer. And I fell in love at a deeper level with the mission of Mosaic. And so when the community development manager told me that he was taking a new job, I about jumped across the table to say, I could do that job.
Oh,
so I feel very blessed.
Fabulous. Yes. Let's talk a little bit about fundraising and your approach, your philosophy. I know that major gifts are a big part of what you all do. Talk a little bit about creating those relationships with donors and how you approach that.
Well, thank you.
Starting off as a donor yourself, what better perspective to have?
Well, I really did enjoy everyone from the resource development staff. And my grandfather was such an influence to me. I'm the oldest of 15 grandchildren. And he always said he had three priorities in his life: God, family, Bethany. And I was envious of that. I was a recruiter and I believed in intrinsic motivation. So I loved it when the match was made between the candidate and the employer,
Sure.
and everyone was happy and they gave you referrals. But he wanted me to visit our national supports office headquarters in Omaha, Nebraska. Again, I was living in Denver at the time. And I thought, why does he want me to go to an office building? I've been to our programs. I know the people we support. And on 4:30 on a Friday afternoon, I knocked on the door, and this gift receiver, Eileen, came around the corner, and I said, my grandfather used to work here. He wanted me to visit this location. She said, I know exactly who you are. Come with me. And she gave me a tour of our chapel, which is at the center of everything we do, right when you walk in the building. And I really credit Eileen and some of those early people that helped me make my first major gift in seeing that this would be a very attractive place to work and that it would be a nice mesh of my faith and my professional vocation. And I do believe this is a vocation. Over the past 22 years, I've been blessed to meet the most amazing people. God-fearing, abundance mindset, sharing, generous, excellent examples of marriage, excellent examples of singles who want to give to make their community and world a better place. And so the things I've learned from them have helped me immensely. As far as my philosophy, it's respect, permission-based, and meeting the donors where they're at to help bring them joy in their giving and truly steward those gifts by sharing the outcomes, which are life-giving to the incredible people we support with intellectual and developmental disabilities and diverse care needs.
Love that. When you prepare for a meeting with a prospective donor, perhaps a prospective major donor, walk us through your how do you approach that? What preparation do you do? What do you see as what's your goal
Well,
for
I
that?
laughed, Drew, because in the beginning I was such a rook. I thought the longer the appointment, the more successful it had been. So until they kick me out and really give me signs that we should end the appointment, I thought I was advancing the relationship. And so a great gift is learning an agenda statement. I tell our community relations managers and people supporting Mosaic at the local level that solicit gifts, I say, most fundraisers in their early years have an hour-long appointment and it's 55 minutes of rapport, and then you squeeze in the solicitation the last 5 minutes. And employing an agenda statement as part of that relationship management plan, as part of what we call a purpose, process, payoff that I attribute to our campaign counsel, Alan Zacharias, really helps set the structure. So, of course, the rapport is important, but really laying the groundwork for here's what we want to accomplish today. Here's what we want to talk about. And is there anything else that's on your heart as we discuss the different ways that you can advance our mission today?
Well, say that one more time. Purpose. What are the three elements of the?
Yeah, the 3 Ps: purpose, process, payoff. And what is the purpose of our meeting today? And I think that's so important because donors' time is valuable. That's our greatest asset, both as fundraisers and as the people we see. And so why are we meeting today? what's the process if there's two people on the call, which we try to keep it to two people. We think sometimes three can be a little cumbersome. Who will play what role? What will each of us lift up and what questions will each of us ask? And then the payoff. What is the desired result from this meeting? And that can be
Right.
both, a number and a solicitation. It can be stewardship. It can be relationship building. It can be broaching the subject of, would you consider including Mosaic in your estate plan, which I think is the greatest compliment anyone can ever give, is to receive that kind of consideration and what type of legacy do you want to leave.
Are planned or legacy gifts, is that an important component of what you're doing at Mosaic, and how do you see those? How again, give us a little bit of the behind the scenes.
Well, every charity, every not-for-profit has amazing families, and we were blessed with incredible leadership and generosity of Reuben and Darlene Swanson. And around 1980, Reuben recommended not spending our estate gifts and saving them to help build the endowment. And he hand recruited our first foundation board. And I'm so grateful that for nearly 50 years has been a point of emphasis for Mosaic, and valuing those, because we all love the checks. We all love the cash that make our mission go. But those planned gifts that are realized, hopefully many years down the line, are transformational. And Mosaic's been around 112 years. And to share with people that we have an endowment of $60 million, that helps put us in a position of strength. So it's not a matter in turbulent times of, can we continue to operate? But because of those that have gone before us, we have a bright future.
So compelling. Matt, talk a little bit about, again, going back to your journey, your career. Have there been some key mentors along the way, people who have influenced how you approach fundraising?
Drew, I've been blessed with the absolute best mentors. I credit the Association of Christian Fundraising, formerly known as Association of Lutheran Development Executives. And it was my second conference ever in 2004 in St. Louis. And I attended a presentation, and they said, get to know the people that have done fundraising for your organization ahead of you. You see their fingerprints, you see their entries into your relationship software. Go seek them out wherever they may be. And the top one that I had been reading about and hearing about was a gentleman named Mike Geis. And I looked at my coworker, Aaron. I said, we've got to go meet this guy. And he was working at Children's Hospital Omaha. And Mike operated with an attitude of abundance and really took us under his wings, and has still to this day been an incredible mentor to me. I call them fireside chats with Mike. And I will go into his office in his home. He has his own consulting company now and has been a big part of Thompson and Associates, Eddie Thompson out in Nashville, for 15 years. But those times together, and I think it brings him great joy because he can see the relationships that he worked on decades ago and that fruit, or I can tell him updates about planned gifts that have come in, or times when we've passed the torch to other people. But I really lift up Mike. There's also a gentleman I met through ACF, Lloyd Probasco. And Lloyd was one of the founding members of that organization. And just 6 years ago at a conference, I came to him with a question. And I said, this Donor has passed away. Her daughter is the sole inheritor of the estate. How do we respectfully walk that line of giving her proper time to grieve, and also the fact that she doesn't have an estate plan of her own? And he thought about it and he said, minister to her needs. And in doing that, we respected the donor, we respected her late mom, and what has transpired is a relationship built on trust and mutual respect and really honoring what her mom had started. And so we try to employ that and minister to her needs came up 2 years ago when we had an aging donor, one of the most incredible women I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. She lived in the same home for over 80 years, single, never married, worked in the ROTC office for the University of Nebraska, Omaha. And for all of the military leaders that came through Offutt Air Force Base, if they were part of that ROTC program, they knew Eva. And a colleague of mine from another charity, we said, we're worried about Eva's age and her memory and her health. And how do we minister to her needs? And a mentor of mine, Pastor Dave DeFries, said, why don't you bring her pastor, Pastor Jan from Augustana Lutheran Church, and that will be an advocate for Eva. And so the three of us in our visit, we talked about her intentions, we talked about her wishes, and she said, it's all on the piece of paper. When they find me, all they have to do is find that piece of paper, and those are my funeral plans and my intentions. And we said, do you mind sharing that piece of paper with us? And she said, not at all. Now, what did I do with it? And when she presented it, we found a lot of the people that she wanted to read at her funeral or sing at her funeral were no longer here. And we said, could we have your permission, Eva, to help you update this piece of paper? And Eva has since passed, but by employing a donor-centered approach, I was very proud that we honored her and her resources and stayed true to the numerous charities that she wanted to remember in her life. And Eva was a childhood friend of my grandfather, Robert Turnquist, at that same church. So she could tell me stories. I knew stories from his married life and professional life, but she could tell a few stories of his ornery days as a teenager and a young adult. So I am forever grateful for that time with Eva.
Oh, I'll bet. What a great story, Matt. Working in healthcare and in human services, these are emotionally complex missions. How do you lead teams to fundraise authentically, in these environments?
Oh, great question, Drew. At Mosaic, it's a core value of everything we do. And integrity is at the center of that. And I'm grateful for our CEO, Linda Timmons, for focusing on the people we support. I'm so proud to share with our families and donors that she is homegrown. And with over 40 years with Mosaic and starting as a direct support worker, she knows what's at the heart of our mission. And so I learned from one of those community relations managers that I supported. She was exhibiting beautiful leadership to a peer who said, I'm not grasping the mission. I don't have that background. And she said, get to know our people. Get to know at least one person in service and spend some time with them. And I always appreciate Jennifer mentioning that, because that's exactly where I go, or where I encourage my colleagues to go, for what we like to call a passion retread. And the people we support are some of the most honest and loving people you will ever meet. And I had the pleasure of being at a church service that we call Rejoicing Spirits. And, I just had a busy week. It was a Thursday morning. I thought, I don't know if I have time to go to Rejoicing Spirits. I was thanking a volunteer from the church for being there. And she looked me square in the eye and she said, I need this. And then I sat down, and my friend Keith that we support, he's like, Matt, guess what? Guess what? I lost 5 pounds. I said, yes, I can tell. I can tell, Keith, you look great. And so that, combined with singing an Alleluia song unabashedly at the top of your lungs, standing up, using your hands to praise the Lord, that's cathartic for the soul. So that's where we
Hear,
turn
hear.
as an organization to find that motivation and to share those heartwarming stories that are so life-giving to the beautiful people we support.
Oh, I love that. Let's talk about today. And donors are increasingly data savvy, impact conscious. How do you and your team, how do you communicate not just need, but value, measurable value?
Excellent question. Yes, we try to be very mindful about what is important to the donor. And for those that are the most savvy or seek that, we are exceptionally transparent. I'm proud that Mosaic lists its 990s on our website. So I will answer any question any of the development officers, our boss Renee or our CEO Linda, or all the community relations managers. We all always say we will answer what we can, and if we cannot, we will get back to you. That is our commitment to you, that we will talk to our CFO, that
Sure.
we'll talk to people in operations, and get you the best answer that we can. And through that is derived a lot of trust. And I've received the compliment to Mosaic from donors who say, we want to give where needed most because we believe in the leadership. A lot of times these are our board members or former board members or families. And they say, we trust Linda, we trust Mosaic to make the best decision. But both Linda, our CEO, and Scott Hoffman, our CFO, they truly place a huge importance on donor intent. So if they want it designated to a certain location, to a certain program, to a certain project, we honor that wholeheartedly. Or sometimes it's a blended gift of, something to the local area right there in their local community and also where needed most. And with every gift of Mosaic, we offer them the opportunity to make it in memory of or in honor of someone that is important to them. And that's always
Sure.
important to Mosaic also.
We talked a little bit about longer term donor relationships. Are there some key practices, Matt, that you look to or that you employ that lead to this trust you're talking about and sustained giving?
Well, just as you asked me where I was from to start this, so that's one of my main questions when meeting a donor is, where are you from originally? I also enjoy asking people, what is the most important thing you have ever been involved with? And a lot
Oh,
of
I
them will
love
say,
that
well, do you
question.
mean personally, work, however you'd like to interpret it. And by knowing them, by knowing where they come from, by knowing what is important to them, and then recalling that and being genuine about it. For those with families, learning what their families are up to. You mentioned your daughters taking those mission trips. Just incredible that at that age they're able to have those experiences. And we do seek to pass the torch. We love it when there's generational giving. We have in 112 years, you have 5 and 6 generation donors. And sometimes their kids are like, that was mom and dad's thing. No big deal. No big deal. But we'd love for you, if interested, to engage as a volunteer, as an advocate, which has been so important, or as a donor and giving life to our mission.
Strong. Thinking back, has there been maybe you could kind of take this a couple of different directions, but maybe a pivotal donor or maybe a challenging fundraising campaign that you learned something that was personally meaningful to you?
What comes to mind immediately is the year 2012. So we're going back 13 years, and we were preparing for our centennial, 100 years as an organization. And there was a fundraising push for that centennial year. There was also a push to have the president and CEO have a portfolio. And so kind of the cream of the crop immediately went into Linda's portfolio. And Drew, I had an attitude of scarcity. I thought, I love seeing those donors. I look forward to those annual gifts. How will my performance be measured without these very best donors?
Sure.
But when I was able to take a breath and talk more with our Senior Vice President of Mission Advancement and our CEO, I quickly realized that someone being placed in the CEO's portfolio was the highest compliment of that relationship. And
Truly.
That's what we should strive for. The relationship is not between the donor and myself. The relationship is with the donor and their love for Mosaic's mission. So how do we advance that? How do we work collaboratively? And who are the best people for the relationship to advance it the furthest, fastest? And by having small egos, this is a Linda Timmons-ism, have a small ego about yourself and a large ego about Mosaic, and things work out. And so I think of that in our centennial year, and a little bit of a mind shift. And I also learned in one of those ACF conferences, they said, I thought the best fundraiser you could be is when someone considered you to be the most interesting person in the world. But the very best fundraisers employ active listening so that the donor feels like the most important person in the world. And those are the people that I continue to learn from.
So good. So good. Talking about the donor and understanding the donor's story and their connection to your mission. How do you talk a little bit about that, reflections on that, understanding the donor story, how you approach that? Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's an exceptional question, Drew. We often talk about the favorite questions we like to ask in our donor visits. And one of my favorites is, was there someone that modeled stewardship for you? And in many cases, absolutely. A parent, a relative, a friend who taught them how to give. For some people, it's innate. And for some people, it's a foreign concept. When I went from the recruiting world to working for the mission of Mosaic, I thought I was well networked within Denver, and I could not wait to call on these wealthy executives. And what I quickly learned is that for a lot of those people, their favorite charity was themselves and their lifestyle. And they were good people, but it was
Sure.
just a foreign concept uh, for that giving nature. So I think about the widow's mite. I think about the millionaire next door. I think about not judging a book by its cover, but intently listening to what's important to people and the generosity. I know people that, they don't tithe 10%, they tithe 90%. They really believe in upside down living and that what they have is a gift from God, and they want to share it and they want to further his kingdom. And so it's always inspiring to hear the answer to that question, who modeled stewardship for you? And someone that I'll have the pleasure of attending her viewing on Sunday night, Lila and Clayton were some of the most faith-filled people. And I was asking their children recently, I said, tell me about what that looked like, because they had had it modeled for them by Lila's parents and a pastor calling on them in a wheat field in Colorado and explaining the concept of first fruits and that art needed to be giving more, or that he can be blessed by giving more. And during the Depression, he said, okay, I'm going to believe in this. I'm going to have faith. I'm going to walk in faith, not fear. And that now for 3 or 4 generations has resulted in incredible gifts. But this daughter, Eileen, said she used to go to lunch with her dad, and he would very quietly say, look around this restaurant. Whose lunch are we going to buy today? And they did it very quietly. The people never knew, but that was a small example of
Love that.
stewardship and generosity that she carries to this day.
Thinking about a couple more questions. One, it's always interesting to think about the future. Lots of things happening with technology today, with AI. Um, is there something out there right now that you're excited about the potential for? Maybe it's a trend, maybe it's technology. Again, you can sort of take it where you like. But yeah, what are you excited about as you think about fundraising in the future?
I appreciate that question, Drew. I'm excited about many things. Most of all, that people are generous and that giving is, in my mind, recession proof because generosity wins. And over the course of the past couple of 100 years, we know that nonprofits continue to thrive and people want to make their community a better place. Now, some of the
Absolutely.
measurements, go ahead.
I just said absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So some of the measurements I think are excellent to help us be more accountable as fundraisers and to be more wise about where to spend our time. Um, the the donor screening, the wealth indicators, those help advance our mission by knowing where to spend our time, with whom, and to respectfully ask if there's that opportunity for connection. One of my mentors, Keith Nelson, who started Lutheran Planned Giving of Nebraska, benefiting all of the ELCA Synod social ministry organizations, he said, the intersection of where your mission and the donors' lives meet is the place for transformational gifts. And so helping us get to that upper right quadrant of capacity and affinity, and knowing when we're in the right living rooms at the right dining room tables, that's exciting. And it's exciting to know that we're helping them write their legacy. So in the giving, what's important to them, their family, and modeling that charity to future generations. And then, personally, my grandfather was a writer, and he blessed us with about 50 short stories of his time in war, his time in high school, childhood memories, his first job, the Wurlitzer piano keyboard that he saved for, that he played in Eva's apartment during young adult night through their church. So I'm a big proponent to tell donors, please capture your oral history.
Ooh, love that.
If your loved ones are gone, recall it, write it down. When I read those to my kids at bedtime, they love that more than any book, to know what great grandpa Bob and great grandma Elaine, how they lived. So that gives me great hope for the future.
Final question. What advice, Matt, would you give to emerging fundraising professionals who want to make a lasting difference in the nonprofit or educational space?
Find those mentors and be a mentor. So find the people that you wish to emulate, that you like their style, and you see that sometimes the most giving people are the busiest and the most present. You wonder, how can they have time to be present and influential to so many people? And it's because they have that gift to not just put themselves on a pedestal, but to give back and to invest in others. I like Andrea Kilstead out of New York City. She said, become a major donor. Become a major donor yourself. There are nonprofits out there where a $50 gift is defined as a major gift. Find them and be that. And I loved her lion-hearted approach to that. So to not think small, but to think big, and to know that there are great things that you can accomplish by entering into that sacred space of quiet conversation about what truly motivates someone and what that gift might be able to do for your mission. So that's my advice.
Thank you. We will end on that powerful note. Thank you again, Matt, for being part of Fundraising Leaders with Drew, and look forward to continuing the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Blessings to your family and in your work.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt.